Welcome everybody to This Week in Wrestling. I am your host, Foulmouth Bobbitt. Back 100% after my little foot issue. Joining me today on this beautiful, wonderful day is, of course, the awesome Miss Heather and JP of the Cold Bone Show. How are y'all today?
We're doing good.
We did very good. Wendy actually slept almost all through the night last night.
Woohoo! Party!
Nice. Joining us today is Miss Ronnie. How are you today?
I'm fine. Glad you're feeling better.
I'm glad to be better, to be honest with you. Also joining us is a special guest host, Miss Gina J. Hey, how are you today?
I am wonderful. How are you, Bobbitt?
I am excellent. And, of course, we always got Trek. How are you, Trek?
Hey there, folks.
So, now that I've introduced everybody, I want to pose this question to the women of this call. What do y'all think about the women's division?
And where do you think it'll lead?
Where do you see it going, honestly?
Well, Gina, since you're the special guest this evening, why don't you start us off?
Women's division is kind of a toss-up in the air with me right now. In one sense, on one episode of a show, it seems like they're going in the right direction. And then the next week on the same show, we see them taking the women's division back to the Attitude Era. So it's really difficult. I think for the most part, they're heading in a positive direction, but unless they continue with like the Mandy Rose bullshit and all that stuff, because then it's taking the women back. I hate what's going on there.
Well, if you notice, it's actually, when it comes down to it's women that are typically in the undercard category that they're doing this stuff with, and the women that are the main eventers, they're taking more seriously.
Yeah, exactly. Because like Charlotte, you don't see that happening with Charlotte or Becky or even Asuka. You don't see that happening, but Naomi and Mandy and even Sonya's gotten drug into the middle because Sonya's like the protector of Mandy.
Right.
Yeah, and they're starting to use Carmella in the comedic role with R-Truth, and then they shoved her into the triple threat, and then of course now they're doing that vacation vlog with her and R-Truth, so I guess she'll be shoved back to the comedic role again.
Well, it was only fair that she got put into that triple threat because of the fact that she was the most recent champion besides Becky.
Mm-hmm.
Correct.
I'm sorry?
I just want to point this out. Now, Carmella and Sonya Deville are feuding on Twitter. If you have not seen it today.
Well, and I think that as much as part of me doesn't want to like Mella, I do like Mella. I did not like her when she was like the heel version of her when she was with James Ellsworth and stuff.
Right.
But I like this lighter version of her that they're doing.
Too.
And on Tuesday night with SmackDown, I love the fact that she was in that match, and I loved her promo that she did because she's like, you know what, everybody thinks that I'm just somebody to be tossed aside, that I'm not a threat or whatever. Well, I'm going to prove it. Well, then when she came out to the triple threat, she did a really good job in that triple threat.
Her ring ability has definitely improved. She's gotten smoother.
Yeah, to me, she is a baby face anyway.
Right.
She's not a heel. She's too small to be a heel.
Well, and not only that, her NXT days, like she was a babyface with Cass and Enzo.
Oh, yeah.
She was literally built from the ground up to be a face. So of course she's going to play that role better.
Exactly.
I totally agree.
And it's kind of sad to see that the whole problem is with wrestling, you need to be able to do both roles in order to be taken very seriously, in my opinion.
Right. Some are more tailored for one than the other, though, I think.
Yes. But I think look at some of the greats that were out there. They were fantastic as a heel or they were fantastic as a face.
Or you have like, if they're going to continue to do this storyline with Mandy Rose and, Jimmy Uso and Naomi, then they need to make it where, okay, yeah, like Trish Stratus, for example, when she was in the storyline with Vince McMahon, I know it's a little bit of a different storyline, but even though Trish was playing a complete slut, she still backed up everything that she did in the ring.
Exactly.
Whereas all I've seen from Mandy Rose so far is her blabbering her mouth.
And then like she runs to Sonya.
Yeah, and then Sonya takes up her dirty work. She's hitting on a married man who wants nothing to do with her. That's sexual harassment. Do they not see where they're going wrong here? I mean, it's reverse sexual harassment.
Well, and that's the other thing, too. I mean, with this Me Too movement, with everything going on, now you've got the reverse role. Now you've got the woman going after the man. And how's that perceived when you've got all these women that have come up saying that, oh, well, I didn't get this promotion because of this, or I was sexually harassed in the workplace. But now you've got a woman that's coming out in a towel, showing the advances towards the male, and you've got the reverse of this now.
But I think that that's kind of the ploy, because if you think about it, all of these like new age feminists, I'm going to call them, this is exactly what they want to see. They want to see the woman in charge and everything to be reversed. But anybody that has a brain knows that that's not appropriate. Like, we bitched about it happening to the women in the Attitude Era. Well, now they're doing it to the men, and that's just as inappropriate as it was to the women.
Well, that's the whole problem. This whole Me Too movement is all about women. They don't care about the men. Exactly. They want the men to be pretty much, these new feminazis want all men to be castrated and sterilized so that they don't have to deal with them.
Exactly.
And I heard this, one of these psychopaths, because that's what they are, people. They're fucking psychopaths. They literally fucking sat there and said, I will have my tubes tied before I sit there and allow myself to have a male child so that I'm not subjected by my child. Excuse me, you are the parent in that situation. Yeah. It is your job in that situation to teach your child how to treat other people, whether they be male or female.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so, I mean, you have that whole issue. The main issue that I have with this particular situation that they're doing with Mandy Rose, like this whole trifecta thing that they're doing, is it's not setting a good example, in my opinion, for the younger generations that are watching it, because he's a married man.
Exactly.
I mean, what if there's a little girl out there that's watching this? What kind of an example is she getting set? I mean, I know that people are going to say, well, it's wrestling. Wrestling's not supposed to be an example. I get that. But in the same sense, WWE has founded themselves on their superstars being good role models. I'm going to say they started that mainly like right after John Cena era. I'm going to say like maybe 2004-ish. They started really pushing for the PG
around
era.
There, yeah.
Yeah, like 2004 to 2006, it started getting a lot more PG. So if they want to do that, if they want to be the PG and they want these superstars to be role models, then this storyline that they're doing doesn't make sense. And I know why they're doing it, because they're trying to get those views in, but it just doesn't make sense to what the company is saying that they are now.
Yeah, because basically you're going to get these little impressionable girls looking at the situation and go, oh, if there's a man that's married, but I want him, I can just go after it.
Exactly. And I think that's a big difference between like our generation versus not even necessarily, because there's a lot in our generation that think it's okay to go after a married man.
Right.
But especially, I see it a lot, especially now in like the girls that are still in like their 20s.
Yep.
They think it's perfectly fine to be with a married man, and that's just not cool with me. So that situation itself.
That too, and then just to cap on to what's going to be transpiring this week, and you're seeing the ads and have seen the ads on the same network as USA. You've got this Temptation Island.
Mm-hmm.
And these kids are seeing this, right? These kids are seeing this, and it's just like, okay, you're seeing it on the wrestling, but it's on the same network. It's going to be following the wrestling.
Yeah.
So it's not just in wrestling. The kids are impressionable, but it's other television shows out there. You still have the soap operas out there too.
And then you
So
also have the shows like 16 and Pregnant and shit like
right.
that.
Oh
I
yeah.
was gonna say the MTV, yeah.
But I think as
Teenage
far
Mom.
yeah, I think as far as like where the women's division is going right now, if they can stick with, I know that a lot of people are saying that what Becky's doing is kind of sexist as well, which I can see their point.
Yep.
But in the same sense, like she's not blatantly being sexist in her role; she's just calling herself the man.
Right.
It's not like she's like, oh, well, you know,
my
I can
dick is
whoop
bigger than yours.
exactly. You know, she basically says I can whoop anybody's ass. It's not I can whoop all these men's ass. I can whoop anybody's ass. I love what they're doing with Becky and Charlotte and Asuka in that scenario, you know, because they're all three of them are very strong women and they believe in themselves, they have confidence. If they can do that with the entire women's roster, then I could definitely see it going in the right direction. But it's split right now.
Right, because yes, Mandy Rose has confidence, but it's sexual confidence. It's not independent confidence.
Yeah.
And it's just that's not where you want the women's division to go because again, that's the Attitude Era.
Well, and you don't want everybody. I mean, obviously these women are sexy. They're sexy. They're beautiful. That's obvious. You don't want to focus directly just on
The
their
sexism.
sex. Yeah.
You want
you know.
want to see their strength. You want to see their ability. You want to see their intelligence as well. I mean, it's just these women are also extremely intelligent.
Mm-hmm.
They're strong. They're independent. They're intelligent. They're beautiful as hell, and they're also fucking sweethearts in a lot of cases.
Yeah. And I think that
Right,
that's
it's
why
how they carry themselves too. I mean,
Right.
I mean, with Becky, you've got like Gina was saying, she's got that confidence, and it's not just directed towards the women; it's directed towards the men as well. She's confident in her abilities there. With Mandy Rose, she's using her sexual assets more, but I mean, she's using her brain too because she knows what is going to get under one of the Usos' skins, and and with Naomi get under her skin as well. So it's how they're using their assets as well. They may not use them all at once, but it's what's the strongest asset that they can use at that point to drive a story or drive a storyline or show a story in the ring.
Yeah. I think that from where the women's movement really sparked, or not the women's movement, in WWE anyway, I should say, where it really sparked with the NXT Women's Revolution. Okay. Becky, Sasha, Bailey, and Charlotte.
And
those
Paige.
four, and Paige, thank you. And if you want to say, Emma had a little bit to do with that too.
Yeah, she did.
Yeah. So like those women, specifically those five women, Paige, Becky, Charlotte, Sasha, and Bailey. The reason why that movement kicked off so much is because they not only used the fact that they were beautiful,
She's still going.
but they were physically capable. They were mentally capable. They could fire promos. That is what this movement started out to be, to show all of the assets that the women have. And I think that that's what they need to continue to do on the main roster, is show everything that they have. And like Bailey, Sasha, Charlotte, and Becky, they'd still do that. But the other women behind them are not doing that.
Right. So now with all this being said, with both Raw and SmackDown women's divisions, where do you see the Royal Rumble up to WrestleMania going with the title pictures right now?
I gotta think about that one.
Yeah.
It all depends. When are they supposed to be introducing those tag team titles?
There's been no mention. It's just said sometime in 2019.
Okay. I don't know, because now they have a feud going with or that's going to be brewing between Sasha and Ronda.
That's going to be starting to kick off the 4 Horsewomen versus 4 Horsewomen thing.
Yeah. So I could definitely see that maybe being. Oh, does Ronda have an Elimination Chamber opponent yet? Or not Elimination Chamber, Royal Rumble?
Yeah, she's facing Nia Jax.
Again?
Nia Jax got her win, I think.
Christ, I thought Sasha beat her on Monday.
Hold on, I'll check.
But anyways, with the Becky and Asuka and Charlotte thing, Becky's obviously going to be facing Asuka at Royal Rumble. I honestly think that Asuka might win that one because of Charlotte interjecting herself in that match somehow. Like maybe Charlotte comes out, starts fighting with Becky, hits Becky, and ends up accidentally hitting Asuka, and it's automatic disqualification.
Okay.
With Asuka retaining the title. That's going to take them up to Elimination Chamber. And then with Elimination Chamber, well, that depends on who wins the Royal Rumble, of course. But I think with that, Becky's going to lose, and then she's going to ultimately end up winning the Royal Rumble.
Right.
Elimination Chamber would be, let's say Charlotte wins the Elimination Chamber. That leads to a triple threat between Asuka, Becky, and Charlotte at WrestleMania.
What about Ronda?
Ronda, I don't know. Like, I really want to see a triple threat. Not a triple threat, excuse me. I really want to see Becky versus Ronda at WrestleMania. That's what I really, really want to see, because that would be Becky's revenge, so to speak, from her interfering with TLC. And I do see Becky getting involved in Ronda's match and costing her the title at Royal Rumble. So I don't know.
And you are correct. Sasha did win that match, so she'll be facing Ronda Rousey at Royal Rumble.
Yeah, so Sasha's already had the title. So if you think about it, she's a good person to put the title on. So if they have Ronda drop the title to her due to Becky's interference, and then Sasha keeps it until, let's say, Elimination Chamber, and then Ronda faces her again in Elimination Chamber, gets the title back, and then ultimately it could end up Ronda versus Becky for the Raw Women's Championship, because they'll be doing a superstar switch up by that time. So
one would hope anyway.
Yeah, you would hope so, but I don't know.
Yeah, because the thing with the women is, I mean, they're going to have their individual matches, and then more than likely they're going to be in the Rumble as well.
Especially with the women's division, because there's not enough.
Right. Unfortunately.
Unless they bring back more legends again.
Oh,
well, and that's what I was wondering too, is were they looking to do the same thing that they did at Evolution?
But, well, I'm wondering too, was there any mention of the NXT UK women coming over for the Royal Rumble?
There might be, but it has not been confirmed yet.
Well, I was just going to say, because I know that they bring up some NXT stars for the Rumble. So, like, if they would bring over the NXT UK stars too, then there might just be enough for the Rumble without having to bring back too many women from the past.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I like your idea, Gina, of Becky costing Ronda Rousey the match. I also see Becky not getting beat clean. She can't get beat clean, like a count out or a disqualification of some kind, and then she can enter the Royal Rumble. I just don't want her to lose clean and then go into the Royal Rumble, because then you'll have the Roman Reigns factor again. People don't want that.
I'm sorry, Ronnie?
Ronnie didn't say anything.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought that was...
No, it's okay. I was listening to JP, but then JP was also saying, too, during the show, we don't want another where Becky and Charlotte both hit the floor, and then you've got the triple threat situation. Yeah, we don't want that either, which we'll have speculated.
I think a lot could be, okay, if Becky interferes with Ronda's match, and then if, like you said, JP, Becky loses via disqualification, let's say Charlotte comes out. Okay. Oh, wait, it would be even better yet if they would put Ronda's match before Becky's, because then Ronda could come out and cost Becky her title badge.
That's
so then
better.
that would be So because then Becky's gonna come out in the Royal Rumble and she's gonna be pissed, right? So then
Right.
that would be a really good way to have her win, just annihilate everybody in her path.
Right, Ronda could do what she did during the triple threat, where she just comes out and it just sparks they're looking up and looking around or whatever, and it could cost her that way. Just a similar at what they did at TLC.
Right.
Yeah, because Ronda would. It would either have to work out that way, or Ronda would have to come out and Asuka would have to somehow get in the middle, and Ronda would have to punch Asuka, or do something to Asuka, because that's the only way that Asuka would be retaining that title.
Right.
Or I can't remember. Did they change the rules? I get New Japan mixed
No,
up with WWE
when it
now.
comes to disqualification, if any person is disqualified, the champion remains the champion.
Okay. See, and in New Japan it's different. Like if it depends on who gets disqualified, because then the other person is the champion.
Right.
That's why I was like,
so,
wait, I get them mixed up.
Yeah. Confirmed thus far for the Women's Royal Rumble is Carmella, Ember Moon, Natalya, Bayley, Ruby Riott, Liv Morgan, Sarah Logan, Sasha Banks, Mandy Rose, Sonya Deville, Alicia Fox, Zelina Vega, and Naomi.
So that's telling you that Ronda Rousey's retaining.
Yep.
And they have started showing Nikki Cross, so we know more than likely she's going to be thrown in
Yeah,
there.
and I'm assuming that
Lacey Evans.
Lacey Evans is probably going to
Evans,
be in
yeah.
there
She's probably
too.
going to be one of the surprise entrants.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which I never really seen the appeal of Lacey Evans.
Me
I mean,
neither.
I like the
The gimmick
like
is
the-
nice because it's the pinup
Yeah.
thing, and she is a former Marine, so it works for her.
And it's fresh. It's not just sexual. It actually appeals to fans. Some fans like that shit.
well, and I think I really liked her when she first came out, but the reason why I really liked her was because she was a face.
Right.
In my opinion, she's a former Marine. She's like this motherly type.
She is a
that
single
kind
mom.
of- Yeah, is she single? I thought she was married.
No,
Last I
she's
heard, she was a single
she's
mom.
Single.
Oh, okay. But anyways, she's like this badass, Rosie the Riveter type character.
Right.
So, in my opinion, that is a face character. Like, they turned her heel, and I don't like it now because I don't see where WWE can capitalize. Okay,
No,
because
'cause-
like with John Cena had the whole like,
Doctor
course, he never-
Thugonomics thing.
yes, he never had the I'm a soldier thing, but he had respect for the soldiers, so he did the salute thing, right?
Right.
That was his thing. That made him go over. Now, I loved the Doctor Thugonomics thing. I loved when he was a heel, actually, when the Thugonomics stuff was just first brought out.
Right.
But once they turned him face and he started doing the whole like respect to the service and all that, that's when he blew up. So I don't see how having Lacey Evans heel is gonna make her blow up. Like it would be the opposite for me. Turn her face and
Well,
have her
hopefully-
be the female version of John Cena.
Well, hopefully, as they like to flip-flop their characters once they bring them up from NXT, hopefully they'll make her a face now when she actually debuts for the main roster, not just main eventing.
I sure hope so, because I really don't. Like I said, I liked her a lot when she first debuted, but ever since they turned her heel, I don't like it, because it's like this,
Arrogant little slut, basically.
yeah, in your face, feminist, arrogant, liberal bullshit, and I don't like it.
Right.
Now, the other thing I was thinking too, with Ronda facing Sasha, because of Nia being involved with the Sasha match this past week, and of course, Ronda and Nia having that history, is she somehow going to come into play, or Bayley, with the jealousy that Sasha got the match? Why wasn't she?
See, I think
considered?
I don't think that that's going to happen, because I think that ultimately Bayley and Sasha are going to end up in the tag team division.
Yep.
Yeah, they're going to be the first
Right,
tag women.
that's-
They're going to be the
that's-
first tag champs.
Yeah.
But I mean, otherwise I could definitely see what you're saying if it wasn't for that tag team division. But
The whole problem with that is they've already tried it.
Yeah, the Boss Hug Connection. Like, can't think of a better name. Come on.
Yeah.
Right.
But they've already tried having Bailey turn on Sasha because of Sasha being the star to get everything.
Bailey is not a good heel.
No.
She is not. No.
She can't. She just can't push that switch.
She's not even a good face.
Well, I love Bailey, but I don't think that she has a mean bone in her body, and she can't act very well.
And they proved it with the fucking Extreme Rules with the fucking kendo stick on a pole match with Alexa Bliss.
That was the dumbest match I think I've ever seen in my life.
Yes, it was.
The dumbest segment ever in WWE was "This Is Your Life" segment.
Oh God, no! The second version, the first version was really good.
Oh, I like the first version. The second version was garbage.
Oh my fucking God!
Yeah,
it just clicked in my head. You realize the Boss and Hug connection, right?
No.
You realize
oh
what that's
God,
replicating?
the Rock and Sock connection.
Rock and Sock connection.
Oh God, they're redoing it all over again because
it
actually
just clicked in my fucking head. Oh my God.
They're using Sasha's the Rock and Bailey's the fucking Foley.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Oh my God, they are literally reusing the storyline because
This Is Your Life connection.
Oh God.
The two of them trying to beat the hell out of each other with Bailey trying to be heel. The only difference is they did the counseling session, which was Daniel Bryan and Kane.
Yeah. Oh God, and that was so bad. Like Daniel Bryan and Kane, the only reason why their counseling session with Dr. Shelby went over so well is because they played it so well.
Exactly.
Those two they had this unspoken chemistry between the two of them that I don't think that you could redo if you tried.
No.
And they both knew how to act. You know, Daniel Bryan, I don't know if his time away, like he forgot how to act or what. I don't know what's going on right now, but
I think the amount of concussions he had made him forget how to act.
Right. But like Kane, sorry, I'm hearing myself talking.
That's okay.
But Kane always had this like special way about being able to bring out the best in other wrestlers.
Mm-hmm.
He was great at enhancement talent. So that's another thing that they lack in the WWE. Not just the women's division, but overall, they lack a main star, and they lack that person that can put anybody over. You know, I mean, and unfortunately, that spot has been basically Tamina and Bailey. Like,
right.
They're the ones that are getting beat all the time.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, and then even with the women's division, I mean, the ones that they're using, it's Ronda, Charlotte, Becky, and now Asuka. So that's the four that are going to be, because we haven't seen any of this change yet, but as it is right now, these are the four that are right now. And now you've added Sasha into the mix at Royal Rumble. You've got them four plus now Sasha that I can see with the Royal Rumble and Elimination Chamber, and then was it leading into Fastlane, where it's just going to be them five that's going to lead into WrestleMania, because I don't see Mandy Rose, I don't see Ruby Riott, I don't see Natalya, I don't see, unless for whatever reason they're going to throw Nia back into the mix of this because of the history with Ronda and her. It's going to be the same rinse and repeat that we're going to get for the next 3 pay-per-views.
Yeah, we're not getting any change anytime soon.
Well,
so people can forget that.
I will say this factor with the women's division. In my opinion, the women's division has more going for it than the men's division right now, just because with Becky and Ronda and Charlotte, we have definitive leaders of the women's division. In the men's division, there really isn't that one person or even 3 people that you can really single out that are like, okay, they're ready.
Right.
They're ready to take over this company, be the face of the men's division.
At one point, it was Braun Strowman, but they fucked up his character when they gave him the Money in the Bank.
Exactly. You know, so like, I think between Asuka, Bailey, Charlotte, and Ronda, between those four, any one of those four could literally be the well. Asuka can like physically wise, but I'm gonna eliminate her out of the picture just because of, like her English is getting better, but it's still a little choppy. So for the face of the company in the women's division, you have three women that are capable of taking control and taking the reins of that division. Two particularly, either Charlotte or Becky.
Actually, I see it more being Ronda because of her UFC days, especially with going to Fox, with them affiliating with Fox now.
That's very true. The only reason why I didn't really lean towards Ronda is just because Becky and Charlotte have been in the wrestling business for longer, so
and they're better on the mic. But however, you also got to look at the UFC aspect.
That's true. But I mean, either way around, chalk it up. There's three main superstars that are women that can take the face of that company. That I cannot name. The only three superstars that I could think of on the male side would be like Seth Rollins, which they've already put this company on his shoulders once already.
And then he got hurt.
Yeah. Drew McIntyre or like Finn Balor, but they won't let Finn Balor do what Finn Balor does. So I don't know.
And they're so hell-bent on the demon gimmick being protected that we know, and everybody knows, once he pulls that gimmick out, he wins the match no matter what. So it just makes it boring to watch.
Exactly. And they won't let him do anything other than the demon gimmick. Like if you watched him when he was in New Japan or when he was wrestling for Progress or any of those matches, he always changed up his gimmick. Like most of the time it was the demon, yes. But at one point in time he had the Joker.
Right.
He came out as a whole bunch of different characters, so I don't understand why they can't let him spice up his character a little bit.
Well, with certain things, they don't want to spend the money to get the copyrights for, like with the Joker thing. He could do something like what Rey Mysterio does with his costumes sometimes. Where he's the off version of Spider-Man, or he was the off version of Batman. He could do something like that, but because with those gimmicks that he did overseas, it not being as widely publicized, he was able to get away with going with the full-on Joker look.
That makes a lot of sense. But I mean, just let him. I don't know. And for all I know, maybe it's Finn Balor that said, "Hey, you know what? I don't want to do the makeup so much." But I really don't believe that.
Right. It's definitely with the WWE itself not wanting to spend the money for the copyrights. Because with the Joker, that would be a huge amount of money for the copyrights just for him to use that makeup.
Right.
Once.
Yeah, definitely. But I mean, anything at this point to spice it up, whether it be the men's division or the women's division, I think as far as like, aside from the Mandy Rose thing, like I said, as far as storyline wise goes, I think it's doing okay. Especially that main title picture.
Right.
It's doing good. Men's division needs a lot of work.
It's faltering badly, and it shows that the shoot promo that Dolph Ziggler and Drew McIntyre did a few months ago, calling everybody lazy and complacent, is dead on.
Yeah.
Because you had these guys that have the fucking talent, but are quite happily sitting at mid-card.
This is the most talented roster they've ever fucking had, and they don't know how to fucking use any of them.
Exactly. And they're content
especially who they've brought up from NXT, and they have let them sit and have not used them.
Like who?
AOP, Ty Dillinger.
They're mid-card guys. I'm talking. They need to go from top down. Because if they go from bottom up, then it's going to take forever. And AEW will pass them by.
Legitimately, I think the only person that they would be able to call up at this point in time that could 110% take the head of and the reins of the company would be Adam Cole.
I agree.
I mean, they're going to try with EC3, which is not a bad attempt.
I think it'll work. If they do it right.
Exactly.
If
but
they
again, they got to use them right.
But EC3 is another one that unless he's playing a certain character, if you put him in a different role, he's not going to know how to act right.
Well, they had him as a face down in NXT. If they bring him up, if they make him a heel, but give him that same arrogance, it's going to work.
Yes. Or if they would have kept Bobby Roode in his heel character when they brought him up, he could have been the face of the company for a while at least, and so that they could build somebody up.
Yeah.
But they changed him to a face, and now he's just. I mean, look at what he's been
stale and
delegated.
boring.
I mean, that guy was he was worshipped in NXT
as a heel. I know.
As a heel, you know, and then they bring him up as a face. And
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
It was the same thing with Roman Reigns. They had him as the thoroughbred in NXT, and people fucking loved it. They brought him up to the main roster, put him as part of the Shield, and basically force-fed him to us, and made him a face, and he fell flat on his face.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just they need to follow the example being set by what they know for their characters down in NXT onto the main roster, and maybe slowly transition them down the road.
Right, and they need to also not put all their eggs in one basket. And hopefully they learn their lesson with Roman, but time will tell, and not say, okay, now we're going to pick Drew McIntyre and we're going to have him lead and then push, and then it goes nowhere.
Exactly. And unfortunately, that's happening more and more.
Right.
Especially with the men's division. Eventually, it's just going to be that quite possibly the women's division will take over.
Yeah, I mean, if they keep on doing it the way that they are, yes. But I mean, if they would call Adam Cole up, and especially if they would bring, I mean, Roderick Strong, yes, but if they would bring up
the whole Undisputed Era does not need to be in NXT anymore.
Exactly. Like if they would bring up, especially, I mean, I'd have nothing against Roderick Strong, but if they would especially bring up Bobby Fish, Kyle O'Reilly, and Adam Cole, right there is your, like, quote unquote faction that you need to run this company. They are the faces of this company, because Kyle O'Reilly, if they let him go, that man is amazing. Like, absolutely freaking amazing. Bobby Fish, he's damn good. Adam Cole, he could be that lead top number one spot. Could you imagine Adam Cole versus Seth Rollins?
Oh my God, that'd be insane.
Yes.
Or even Adam Cole versus Finn Balor.
Exactly. Adam Cole has the capability to go up against anybody. You could see Adam Cole versus Braun Strowman, and it would still be an exciting match because Adam Cole knows what he is doing in the ring. Not only that, but that guy can shoot one hell of a promo.
Here's another thought too. Adam Cole versus Rey Mysterio.
That would be great.
Or Shinsuke Nakamura.
Yeah, and I love Adam Cole because he's so great on the mic, and you can definitely tell that he was in the Bullet Club, because all of those Bullet Club guys, if you give them a mic, they're so good.
Yeah. Absolutely.
It's just, please don't bring him up and make him Michael Cole's son, illegitimate son.
Oh God.
It's just, that's a fear of anybody that they bring up now, what they're going to do.
Actually, the major fear right now with anybody being brought from NXT is that they'll sit back in catering and become part of Titus Worldwide.
Yeah. Let me say something about this fear of calling people up. Now, I get why everybody's scared for, them to call up anybody, but everybody, you got to understand, they can't keep these guys down in NXT forever, because there's more people that they're signing that they need to get to develop on NXT, or else WWE is going to continue down the same path.
And NXT is going to be overrun.
Now, the thing is with that being said, is as soon as somebody signs with WWE, and I see this all the time, even with the Kenny Omega thing. Oh, they're going to sign Kenny Omega. They're just going to ruin him. Well, if you think they're going to ruin him, no matter what they fucking do, even if it is good, everybody thinks he's ruined. He's ruined. Before he even gets to fucking anywhere, he's fucking ruined if he signs. You never know. They might do something. And there's certain superstars, i.e. AJ Styles, they've kind of ruined him now for me, in a sense, because they had him lose to Daniel Bryan. for no reason. I just
Well,
my fear is that people are going to start saying, well, if they sign this guy, they're just going to ruin him and then they're going to be, as soon as they call him up, oh, he's dead, and then they're just going to have this mentality that everybody that they bring up to the main roster is shit, and it's
see,
not going to go anywhere.
AJ Styles for me was kind of ruined before they even had him lose to Daniel Bryan, because they had him hold the title a little too long with lackluster matches in between, in my opinion, because those matches, like, he was getting pinned up against the same people over and over again. And
well, that's because that's them putting all their eggs in one basket again.
yeah, so by the time that he finally actually got up and lost the title, I was just like, whatever, like, take it off of him by this time because I don't care.
They were also hoping to have him surpass CM Punk's record.
But yeah,
They should have. I don't know why they took the title off. Randy Orton would have been the perfect person to have take off the title of AJ Styles. And then you can do something that WWE has never done at WrestleMania. I want to see it because in the Ruthless Aggression era, it was one of the greatest feuds in WWE. And that's Randy Orton versus John Cena.
that was a really good match.
Well, and we've talked about it too. It's you've got to have not just a plan A, you have to have a plan B in case something would happen with a major star to fall back on, because then that's where we got we're just going to throw this match together at the last minute because we have nobody else.
Right.
To have at least something that's going to make something a plausible sense or some sense or something that you were going or striving to go towards, you're just doing it a little bit sooner in case something would happen. Or if you bring a star up and they're not doing what you thought they were doing in the NXT division, they're just not hitting that mark on the main roster, have a fallback to have something that you can do as an alternative instead of just throwing everything together or throwing the title on somebody or taking the title off of somebody else.
Right.
Which is exactly what they used to do back in, like, the Attitude with this aggression eras. Like, there wasn't just one main guy, there was a bunch of guys. Like, you saw it with Stone Cold and The Rock and Kurt Angle and Mick Foley. They had so many different guys that were ready to take that main card. And there was that competitiveness at that time. And the guys were always ready. They were always on their game because they were just basically waiting for that person to fail at doing their job so they could take over.
And it's like we've been saying, Johnny's been saying it, JP's been saying it, I've been saying it, Bobbitt's been saying it, Trek's been saying it. Everybody who knows this business, that's been watching this business for as long as we have, has all been saying it. Back in the day, you didn't have just your main guys be the entertainment. The mid-card title people were also able to entertain you just as much as the main card guys.
The IC champion, the cruiserweight champion, the hardcore championship. I loved the hardcore championship matches. Let me rephrase that. I loved the hardcore championship matches until they did the whole where the hardcore was 24/7,
right?
Yeah, and then it was kind of funny at first, but then after like maybe 2 weeks of that, I was like, okay, this is annoying.
Yeah, when Briscoe fucking pinned Pat Patterson in his sleep, it's like, really, come on now.
Yeah, that was to the point. I mean, like, I remember when they first started doing that. Who was it? I think Crash Holly won it right away, and then I can't remember who got it off of him, but somebody got it off of him, and then oh God, who was, I can't remember. I just watched this match the other day too. And then there was another guy that pinned that guy, but then Christian ultimately ended up getting that guy, and Christian was waiting to get in the car, and then the original guy that got pinned to begin with came back and got the championship back.
Eventually a fucking mop held the title.
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
That's who it was. It was Al Snow because he had head.
Right.
Yeah, and he came with that forklift trying to get that kid. That stuff, in the beginning was
It
entertaining.
got to the point of ridiculousness.
Yeah, it was entertaining at first, but yeah, it definitely got ridiculous. But I mean, I miss shit like that. Like Monday night, the opening of Monday night was.
You were actually excited to watch it.
You were excited to watch it, but in the same sense, I was like, what the hell is going on? Like, it was a little too chaotic. I would have liked it much better if they would have. Now I know that it was spawning off of the week before that, but I would have liked it much better if they would have actually started off with like a verbal confrontation between Seth Rollins and Bobby Lashley, and then it sparked it, because then you would have at least known what was happening.
Right, and then you also had Seth and Dean in that hour, and then you also had Seth and Dean in the last hour.
Yes.
So it's like, it's just, there are so many different types of talent between, you've got the main roster, you've got the tag team division, you've got the women, you've got the cruiserweights who you don't even see unless you watch 205 Live. There's just so many different types of talent that they can put on that 3-hour show and it not be boring. It's just how to book it.
Well, and I haven't seen I know that Gallows and Anderson are on SmackDown now, but I saw them for the first time like 2 weeks ago, and they were only doing a promo. And then they were in a match, I think, the week before that or something. But anyways, I know a lot of people don't like this guy, but you guys know I love this guy. I haven't seen Mojo Rawley in forever. I haven't seen Zack Ryder. Zack Ryder I saw in the back trying to break up the thing between Seth and Bobby, but we haven't seen him in a match in how long?
Exactly.
You know, there's those perfect mid-carders that are just being not even underutilized. They're not being utilized at all.
Right, and you got Ty Dillinger. He's tweeting about all these big things he wants to do, and you don't see him.
Yes,
either.
or Tyler Breeze. Tyler Breeze is fucking great. You can throw him in the ring with anybody. Literally,
they proved it because they brought him back down to NXT and had that title shot with Ricochet, and that match was fucking awesome.
Yes, that was a great match. So I just don't understand.
Well, even when they threw him in there with Dean Ambrose, we all knew he wasn't going to win, but you got
it was
to
a
see,
hell of a match.
No, it wasn't.
Yeah.
It was garbage.
but you got to see him back on the main roster
Yeah.
and utilized.
Well, and you know, the thing is, like, I know at one point in time I said, well, I don't care what these guys are doing. I don't care if they have a match, just show them on TV, which to a certain extent it's good. And they did. They've been doing that. They've been showing a lot more talent on TV, even if it's just like a backstage thing or whatever. But I thought it would be good enough for me, but it's not. Like, I want to see these guys utilized. I'm sick and tired of seeing the same guys utilized in the mid card and on like the main card.
Mm-hmm.
Seth Rollins, he's playing both mid carder and face of the company. They could have avoided this so much if they wouldn't have just done everything on Roman, because that when they first started with Roman, they had several different guys that could be the main lead for this company, but now they don't have any.
Yeah.
Right, and then you're going to have the same issue down in NXT, and it's going to be where you've got the new talent that's coming in, and it's, okay, what's going to happen to Velveteen Dream then? Is he going to be pushed to the side? What's going to happen with Aleister Black? Is he going to get pushed to the side and not brought up? Or if he gets brought up, what do they have for him how to utilize him on the main roster?
Look at Sanity.
I think Velveteen Dream's going to be down in NXT for a while.
Yes.
I do too, only because he's 23 years old.
He's going to be the next wave of future superstars. Once they bring up your Adam Coles and all those guys, watch. They're going to start. They're not going to re-sign, like Bobby Roode's going to leave. Finn Balor might leave. Who else is up? AJ Styles. They're going to start bringing those guys up, and they're going to be the ones that are going to take over and be the faces of the company. Wow.
Well, I'm telling you guys right now. Sorry, I'm choking here. Give me a second. Okay. Luke Gallows and Anderson. I swallowed my soda wrong, so I'm sorry.
That's okay.
But they they've been tweeting a lot, and it's not just about how unhappy they are, but like they've been tweeting a lot of pictures with them with the Bullet Club, along with AJ Styles and Finn Balor. So I could ultimately see, maybe not Finn Balor so much, because Finn Balor seems like he's kind of molded into the WWE kind of corporate role, I guess you would say. But AJ Styles seems like he's really unhappy as of late. So I could see those guys leaving, eventually, and going back to New Japan and rejoining the Bullet Club. And then we have superstars that are talking already about AEW. They're talking about wanting to leave. Ty Dillinger has expressed his interest in AEW. So has Tyler Breeze, openly on Twitter. So there's a lot of those guys that aren't being utilized, that if they don't start utilizing them, they're going to lose them.
Exactly. Let them go.
I disagree, though, JP, because, like, it would be dumb. It would be really dumb of the WWE to let guys like Ty Dillinger and especially Tyler Breeze, Fandango, it would be really stupid for them to let these guys go, because Tyler Breeze, if you put a person like Tyler Breeze in AEW, he is going to shine and he is going to become a huge superstar.
Okay, I'm fine with that, because I'm telling you right now, Vince McMahon thinks of Ty Dillinger nothing more than a jobber. He thinks of Tyler Breeze nothing more than maybe a mid-carder or a tag team. I just let them go. Let them do their thing. Let them grow, because then if they do go up and they do succeed, guess what? WWE will want them back even more, and they might actually get utilized properly.
Yeah, see, like, as a fan, I want them to let them go, but thinking WWE corporate-wise, it would be ridiculous for them to let them go. But I don't know. I guess we'll see.
Okay, I don't know what else to know. I'm damn kid. All right. Well, you ready?
Wendy wants to put her input in.
Wendy needs a bath. So
I did find the quote about Triple H.
What quote?
Okay.
He said, and this was from Wrestling Inc. yesterday, when he was asked if he thinks some of them will be better off staying in NXT. He says, I think there will be some talent that will be incredibly successful, will be global names, will be global household names that will probably never leave the NXT system because that's their home base and that's where they fit. And they'll have incredibly successful, meaningful careers, and probably over those careers, they'll gravitate towards different locations within the globe, maybe without never being on Raw or SmackDown, but that not being any less to their careers.
See, with that tells me that they're thinking about letting people go. That's what that quote tells me, because if he says that they have a home on NXT, but they're never going to be up on the main roster, and they may gravitate toward other places in the world, they might be considerable, which I think that they need to let people go on the main roster, because that's the problem.
Yep.
You're never going to be able to get fresh faces on the main roster without having a problem of how the hell do we get all these people on the show. So they have to let them. Me personally, I would cut, I'm going to say at least a third of the male roster.
I agree. They need to get rid of some of these guys. It's killing the show. It's killing Raw and SmackDown, because they're underutilizing people, and they only focus on like 4 people a night, and that is sad.
They need with the people that they are calling off and have already called up, they need to sit there and figure out a way to integrate them in. It's like I said before. Back in the day, they knew how to rotate their talent so that everybody got their TV time and their rest time as well. They don't do that anymore, and that's why they're facing so many injuries at so many times.
Mm-hmm.
Right, or you're looking at, you're seeing tag team, you're seeing 6-man, you're seeing 8-man, you're seeing all these pay-per-views, and it's just they're trying to shove everybody on the show just to give them that 5 to 10 minutes.
Exactly.
More so
And
on Raw
it's
than
not
SmackDown.
people say. Because then you can't progress storylines.
It doesn't help that Raw is 3 hours long either.
Especially since that. I mean, you can see that they struggle to fill that 3 hours because there's a lot more promo work and less wrestling.
Right.
So with that being said, I'm gonna let JP take over so I can give little Miss Fussy Pants here a bath. Although I told Daddy I wanted to wait.
Go ahead,
until it was
continue
time to
talking.
change her diaper.
Okay. Oh my God, I'm back. Bobbitt is he's poor Bobbitt. How you doing, Bobbitt? You doing all
We
right?
kind of took over there, Bobbin. I'm sorry.
You enjoying the conversation?
Yeah.
Because I am. I enjoyed that conversation.
Yeah.
I love
Yeah, I
that
did
shit.
too.
You guys
Yeah,
talked for.
I've been in here like enjoying it, watching the football game, you know.
Yep. All right. So, Bobbitt, what is next on the docket? Does anybody have anything else to say about the women's division or just WWE in general?
Yeah, I'm just gonna answer Evolution 2 here real quick because they had several people from North America. They had Cody Rhodes, they had the Young Bucks, they had Bobby Fish, they had Kyle O'Reilly, they had Kenny Omega. They let all of them
New
go.
Japan.
What makes you think they're gonna try and appeal to the American audience now?
Who?
And JPW.
NJP. We'll talk about it.
I have something to say, but I will wait.
We're gonna talk about it all, Gina.
This will kind of bring you into the next
This will
topic.
kind of
you
lead
wanna
us
talk
into
about.
the next topic.
Okay.
Bobbitt.
Well,
Go ahead.
I think I kind of know what Aru is talking about, but Bobbitt, go ahead.
Well, the next topic we got on the docket here, and probably the last one of the night, is Walmart refuses to stock their damn trading cards. Bunch of bastards.
They're still out?
No, they won't
Yeah.
stock it.
Like I tried to go Thursday, like after I got back from the doctor. They ain't got jack horse shit. Well, they've got a bunch of baseball cards. Anyway, moving on to the next topic. Let's talk about the newest player in town, AEW, and what you guys think it's gonna be.
Well, I'm going to tell you my thoughts, and then I'm going to because I know Gina and I have debated this. It's been a friendly debate. I haven't told her to piss off yet.
Yet. Yes.
Probably because you know that I would come over there and kick you in the ass if you did.
Okay, whatever. But no,
Well,
I'm
you
just
are
kidding.
with your driving
uh-huh.
license.
So, look, and I get what Arushin Chu's saying, but New Japan has already stated. Now, Kenny Omega is not, just because AEW signs Kenny Omega doesn't mean that New Japan is going to work with AEW. Hold on, Gina. Damn it. Let me finish. I'm not saying it's not going to happen, but there is no guarantee.
I wasn't actually going to interrupt you to disagree with you. You're right.
If he signs with AEW, he's not working. New Japan does not want to work with AEW.
New Japan has just released a statement saying that they had to choose basically between working with ROH or working with AEW, and they chose to stick with ROH, which means that if Kenny Omega signs with AEW, he will no longer be in New Japan.
That is correct. It's not going to force New Japan's hand. New Japan makes more money than AEW does, or will.
Yes.
At least right now. Go ahead.
The only person that has been signed to AEW, now, mind you, they could have a clause in the contract like they do with this person where Kenny could go over for big card matches in NJPW. That has not been said yet. But Chris Jericho, his apparently he signed a 3-year deal with AEW. He is exclusively to AEW, except he is allowed to do the Jericho Cruise, and he's also allowed to go over and do big matches in NJPW, like Wrestle Kingdom, Dominion, things like that.
He signed a contract like Kota Ibushi did. Kota Ibushi was a freelancer. He essentially was working with NJPW, but he was not exclusive to NJPW.
Yeah, but Chris Jericho is exclusive to NJPW. Chris Jericho is exclusive to AEW, except because apparently that New Japan had some wrestling matches lined up for him
Mm-hmm.
this year and possibly next year
Mm-hmm.
for the big shows. So he is allowed to go and do those, and he's still allowed to do the Jericho Cruise. But
And-
otherwise, he is not allowed to work with any other promotions.
And that's fine. That being said, there's a reason why they're letting him do that. And I'm going to give you this one reason, because there may be in the future, if AEW is successful and takes off, I guarantee you it. If they take over Ring of Honor as a better promotion, bet you New Japan does sign with them.
Oh, I can definitely see that. But you also have to remember that the Elite, they didn't leave New Japan on the greatest of terms.
That is true.
Because New Japan was not very happy with the fact that they took over, and then they took advantage of the fact that they took over, and they decided that they were going to leave.
Mm-hmm.
So that explains a lot as to why they're not really willing to work with these guys at this moment. But I completely agree. That doesn't, just because they're not working together now doesn't mean that they won't in the future.
Right. See, and this is my fear with AEW. They're burning bridges that they shouldn't burn.
Yeah.
But I'm sorry?
No, go ahead.
I think that one thing that AEW has working, well, they have many things, in my opinion, working in their favor right now. But what I think primarily they have working in their favor is the fact that they are working with OWE. OWE in China that company is ridiculously amazing, and a lot of their product has not been seen throughout the world yet.
Okay. I get that. It's understandable.
So it's something new that's going to be brought. And I mean, JP, you saw it the other day. Those guys, it's like watching the circus, watching those guys.
Let me put it to you like this. They're safe. They're not going to do these. See, this is what annoys the shit out of me with these fans. Not the wrestlers, the fans. They want to see blood, guts, and backflips off of a fucking Titantron onto a fucking table, through another table, onto a person. To me, that's not wrestling. That's not getting it done for me. I don't care for Shane McMahon and his fucking stupid antics. I don't really care for Jeff Hardy and his, even though he does it. I just, that stuff I don't care for. What I watched on the OWE was they were doing goddamn ski jumper flips. It's seriously, like they were flipping, and he'd flip on his. Let me answer it, Bobbitt. I watched one where he flipped. My kid's losing her shit.
I hear that.
He did a flip, and he did a flip from one end of the ring to the fucking other.
Mm-hmm.
These guys are amazing. However, I just hope that what they showed is what they do, because if they do what I'm probably thinking they're going to let these guys do, that bothers me.
See, I can understand that aspect of it, but I'm one of those fans that you just described. I love the high flying shit. I love Jeff Hardy. Jeff Hardy made me fall in love with wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
I love those high risk, breathtaking, oh my god, holy shit moments.
Right.
But I also, in the same aspect, love technical wrestling. I mean, you know that one of my favorite wrestlers is Zack Sabre Jr. He's one of the best technical wrestlers in the world. I love the Japanese style, hard hitting, in your face type stuff, and I also love the British strong style. So I love all aspects of wrestling, and I think that AEW has. That's one thing that they have going for them, is they really do have all of those aspects of wrestling touched up on.
Now, I didn't watch the press conference, and Ronnie kind of went over a couple of things. You said you watched it, right, Gina?
Yes.
Okay, so we got up to, where did we get to on that discussion, Ronnie? And that was on Raw.
I think the main point that we kind of were focusing on, I mean, we talked about the pay-per-view they were having. We talked about who the chief officers were. Where we kind of got off was just more on Brandy's, what she was reading, and we kind of were trying to surmise, which more came to light afterwards, where she put out the tweet. And I even listened to Connor too, where there was some confusion on what she was saying with the pay for equal, for men and women with equal pay. And we were trying to surmise where somebody was coming in as a beginning talent versus someone that was a champion. And there was some confusion there based on that. And that's kind of where our discussions were more centered around than with the press conference, with the pay-per-view that they're going to have, or the show in Jacksonville. There was just bits and pieces of that we touched on, and then the talent that was brought onto the stage.
Now, let's talk about the pay thing.
Okay.
Now, my issue is, and I understand the pay thing. I get it. They're going to get paid equally. I totally understand that. Now, let's say Seth Rollins comes into AEW. Do you think he's going to want to start at the same pay as a entry level? Which he's not. I mean, go ahead.
I was just going to say, like, that all depends in my aspect, or in my opinion, because obviously these guys are going to want to get paid decently, but AEW for me is for wrestlers who actually want to entertain the fans, and the fans are above their pay grade. You know what I mean? So they're going to care more about being able to showcase their talents and the fan reaction than they are about. I mean, obviously they're going to be worried about how much they make, but it's not going to be the sole focus.
Okay. Here's a misconception I have, and I think that people have with the WWE. Yes, they deserve to get paid, but I don't think that they think they're above. Now, some of them might, but I don't think that a lot of them think they're above fans. Is that
No, that's not what I meant. That's not what I meant by saying that at all. I'm just saying, like, AEW, it's a lot more. It's a lot more focused on. It's fan driven versus corporate driven, is what I meant.
Well, here's my issue with that, and that's great. They need to just let the fans cheer for who they want to cheer for. My thing is, they need to tell the story. They need to get the fans invested in that wrestler. They don't need to let the fans tell them what they should do. Bullshit, because that ran WWE into the problem that they're having now. If that's what you mean, because I don't want to see that. I want them to tell me the story. They've got to tell me not who they want me to cheer for, but if they're going to push somebody, they got to get me invested in that character. That's what I want. I don't want the fans, to tell me, another fan, that, hey, this guy, you need to cheer for this guy. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's where WWE ran into the problem, because they were doing it for the fans. And they did. They gave us Daniel Bryan. He got hurt, and then they had to find something else. Do you see what I'm saying? Am I making any sense, or am I off kilter?
No, you're making sense.
Okay. I don't want, like, again, people think I'm shitting all over AEW. I'm not. But I want them to be able to tell their stories. Fans are great. They can give their ideas, but you tell what you think is better. I don't want the fans to tell me who I should cheer for, or who's the face and who's the heel. And I think that is where Gina is going with this. But I don't want the fans to become the ones that run the show, because then you're going to see WWE all over again.
Yeah, I don't think that that's necessarily going to happen. What I think that they have going for them is the fact that Cody and the Young Bucks, especially the Young Bucks, they grew up fans, so they pretty much know what the fans want and what's going to make them go nuts. So they're able to write stories to focus on that. Oh, and also, I don't know if you guys heard or not, but Billy Gunn is the producer of the show.
Yeah.
So Billy Gunn, he's been in wrestling for a very long time. He's gonna know exactly what the fans are gonna want to see.
But so does Road Dogg.
Road Dogg does, yes, but he still has Vince over him.
I understand that.
So what I'm saying is this is what I love about it, because Road Dogg and Billy Gunn, in my opinion, they're about equal as far as like expertise and all that in wrestling. So I just think that AEW is going to edge a little bit ahead as far as pleasing the fans, just because in AEW, Billy Gunn does not, like, the only people he has to answer to are Cody, the Young Bucks, and Khan and his dad, right? So Khan and his dad, I think that they're going to be more or less kind of a hidden president and stuff. So it's going to be on the Cody and the Young Bucks a lot. Those guys are going to be a lot more willing to do things that Vince McMahon is not going to be willing to do.
I hope so.
Yeah, I was just going to say that, because I asked Austin today, why is it when you watch like an NXT show at times that like this?
Sorry, guys.
That's okay. It just seems that the storylines flow a little bit more, and he's explaining it to me like you have William Regal down there, you have Shawn Michaels down there, Triple H is overseeing it, and it's the same with the UK. You don't have Vince McMahon in their ear telling them to change this or do this or changing things at the last minute. Whereas the same with the AEW, you've got Cody, Matt and Nick Jackson, and Billy Gunn, where you're not going to have a Vince McMahon in their ear. You're going to have the president there, but it's not the tyrant like Vince McMahon is.
Okay, well, let's. I don't think Vince McMahon's a tyrant.
I think what she means more or less is just that Khan and his dad, they don't have a history in wrestling, so they're not going to be as active in it as Vince is. Vince has a.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say Vince has a reason to be the way that he is, because this is the company that he built. This is his baby.
Yeah. And here's the thing too. There is a reason why Vince is the way he is. And you can blame some certain people that left his company and did what they did to him. And I can't remember names off the top of my head, but like Bret Hart is one of them. He was going to leave with the belt. He did not want to fucking do business with Vince. Vince is like, well, I guess I'm just going to have to do this. I don't think people misunderstand Vince. He's very protective. It hurt him when Scott Hall and Kevin Nash left. It hurt him bad when Bret Hart. He didn't want them to leave. But Vince couldn't pay. And you've seen what happened with WCW. They started overpaying their superstars, and they started writing clauses in their contract that they had creative control.
Yeah.
And Vince McMahon just could not compete with that. So Vince McMahon had to say, I'm not giving anybody control. This is my baby. I invested in this. We are going to do what I want. If you have ideas, bring them to me. I'm sure he listens to ideas. Because some of the stuff that they do in WWE does work. And it comes from Road Dogg. It comes from Triple H. It comes from TJ Wilson. Some of the best produced matches this year have come from Tyson Kidd.
Yeah.
So I think he listens to advice or listens to ideas. But some of his best ideas actually come from Vince Russo and arguing with Jim Cornette. because he would take both of them and integrate it. So when we sit here and rip on Vince about his story, his creative, there's a reason why he is the way he is. And it sucks that and you can blame some superstars for that because they did it to him. It hurt. It Medusa. When she left with the title, that's why Vince did what he did to Bret Hart. He did not trust Bret Hart. That killed any trust that he had with any of his champions. That's why he's very skeptical of keeping a champion for very long. Except for Brock Lesnar. And that's a whole nother fucking story.
I was going to say, the trust with that one is...
And I'm going to say this now. And people are going to be like, what are you talking about? And Gene, we talked about this. I've talked about this. This is why I don't care for Pete Dunne. People are shitting all over Brock Lesnar because the difference between Pete Dunne and Brock Lesnar is Pete Dunne does compete. Brock Lesnar defended the title more times than Pete Dunne last year. We looked it up. I think Pete Dunne defended it 3 times, and Brock Lesnar defended it. No, Pete Dunne defended it 4 times, and Brock Lesnar defended it 5 times. So for people to shit on Brock Lesnar for not defending the title, shame on you. You should be shitting on Pete Dunne as well, even though it's a different title.
But one thing that you have to remember and keep in mind with Pete Dunne is at that time Pete Dunne was still trying to seal up his deals that he had in place already with other promotions. So the WWE was kind of letting him shut that door. So he was still trying to shut the door. I agree that they shouldn't have put the title on him if he was trying to shut the door. But then again, a lot of the UK wrestlers were in the same predicament where they were trying to shut doors of commitments that they already had. Right. So he had prior commitments, and then on top of that, they didn't have the NXT UK at that time. It wasn't where it is now. Right. So there really wasn't a place for him to be able to showcase that title all the time.
Right, and I get it, and I might check out NXT UK, but I don't know after what I heard. I don't know. I know they had Finn Balor wrestled today instead of one of the wrestlers.
Tyler Bate.
No, Tyler Bate was in the first match. He was in the tag team title match.
Was it Finn Balor versus
Jordan Devlin? Jordan Devlin. It was student versus teacher.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm super excited now. I gotta watch that.
I'm thinking that might be the match that I watched because I heard it was pretty good.
Well, I imagine so because like you said, he was his teacher. So.
So I mean, but for people that's where I get defensive with some of the champions that we've had in recent, even AJ Styles. The reason that they had AJ Styles as a champion is nobody could believe that. And me and Johnny had talked about this, who just joined the call. We have talked about this. They just couldn't get anybody to beat him or put him over, I guess, or however that was. It's not that AJ Styles is boring and stupid or whatever. It's just his championship run got stale, and it really failed me when they did not. They should have had Randy Orton beat him at Royal Rumble. That's what they should have done.
I'll be right back.
So.
My kid's too quiet. I gotta go check on her. I'll be right back.
Speaking of Johnny, how you feeling today, man?
I'm feeling good, man. I'm sorry I'm late. I've literally been sleeping most of the day. Ever since I started feeling more, my body's like, okay, now you got to catch up on all the sleep you missed.
Right? Yeah, exactly.
So, but I caught the tail end, and I was like, oh yeah, I definitely got a lot to say about this.
Yeah, we were talking. We let the girls talk about the women's division for a good hour, and we've just been talking about AEW, and we've just been talking, trying to get Gina's perspective because she's a huge fan of what they are doing, I guess.
Well, I'm becoming a pretty big fan of what they're doing too. I haven't been able to keep up with it as much, but like I said before, I'm interested in what they're. I'm at least interested in what they're doing.
Yep, and my thing is here's where I'm getting sick of it. I'm sick of all the Kenny Omega questions. I'm sick of. I'm getting sick of that. I'm kind of getting sick. What do you think AEW is going to do? I don't know.
Anybody, this is my thing. Anybody that realistically asks that question is realistically getting a little bit too overhyped about it. Yeah. I mean, is it okay to be excited about a new promotion that's coming? I mean, with the names that are being mentioned, of course. I mean, it's only natural to be excited. Mm-hmm. But the realistic sense is you don't know what they're going to do. Yeah. I mean, we have speculation. They've started talking about some of the things that they're going to do. Some of these things are actually really good in theory, and they sound good on paper, but we won't know until they actually execute it.
Yeah, I agree. Here's my thing, and I said this to Gina last night, and I've said it to everybody. I want this to succeed. I want it to be a good thing. I want it to be able to compete with WWE because I want, and it'll be better for the industry, not just
it'll be better for wrestling altogether.
Yes,
I mean,
the industry. Yes, the industry. Industry in general.
You know, if anything, it may call it. You know, and two, we don't even know. Like, let's say there's too many variables because let's say that AEW is very successful. There's no guarantee that WWE will wake up from it.
No.
You know, but there's also, like you said, like you were talking about, the WWE could rise back up and smack the crap out of AEW.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I kind of agree with Basement. And I think you, myself, and then Basement saying in the chat, all kind of have the same theory. We're coming at this with very a good amount of cautious optimism.
Yes.
We have our skepticism about it, but you're going to have that with any new product that comes into light. That's not to say that you're not going to be excited or at least interested in the product, but you know, we have to. There is a chance that this could flop. I mean, TNA is a good example of this.
Yes.
TNA, which arguably I still maintain that when they were first running, they had AJ Styles, Samoa Joe, Christopher Daniels, Sting, all that. They had objectively a better product.
They had a better product. My thing was, and I said this numerous times, is it did not put a dent in WWE, and that's why TNA failed.
The only thing that I see AEW have going in their direction, and the reason why I think that of course, this is not going to be for a long time. Everybody that thinks that they're going to wash WWE out of the water right away, get a fucking grip. That's not going to happen. But the only reason why I see them potentially becoming a competitor in the future is because they have people like Cody Rhodes, the Young Bucks, and Chris Jericho behind them. Like, these are guys that have been in the business for a long time. They know what it takes to have a business run. If anybody thinks that Cody did not discuss his dreams to start his own promotion with his father before his father died, they're out of their mind. Dusty had to have filled Cody with so many little facts and tidbits that he needed to know in order to be able to run a promotion. Not even if they didn't even talk about his dream to start a company. Maybe that wasn't on the plate at that time, but he had to have been, like, Dusty had to have talked about when he started Starrcade.
Yeah.
You know, so Cody knows what it takes to run a business. He knows what it takes to succeed in the wrestling business.
Mm-hmm. Well, and two, we also have to look at something else here as well, is that there's some people that go, oh, well, it just might be a streaming service with AEW or a small TV deal. Well, I hate to say it, but, there is a valid argument that a streaming service might be a viable.
They've been talking about possible Twitch.
Possible Twitch. Okay, so, and this is where I'm going with this. In the market, we have seen a trend going with television. Television as a whole is down because more and more people are going with digital distribution, not through. I'm sorry.
She said Hulu, for instance.
Hulu,
Exactly.
a digital distribution of the product. I mean, if WWE Network would go to where they would, like, let's say they lost USA and they lost Fox, they could easily go into the WWE Network, which I kind of made the argument that realistically they might do better in a stream on their own streaming platform, given the case that a lot of your fan base has moved to a more digitalized way of viewing.
Yep.
Not only that, Johnny, but they've made you better in a streaming service just because they won't be as tied down as they would through a TV deal. Because a TV deal,
Right.
you basically have to break it down to either PG or PG-13. Okay.
Right.
Most of your TV deals are not going to let you go PG-14 anymore. So unless you're talking about airing a product that's after 11 o'clock at night,
Right, which
you're not going to get anybody watching at that time of night.
Right, and that's correct. Now, this is the thing with there was two things that happened with TNA. TNA had poor management in the upper management, much like WCW did. Also, the problem with TNA is what I've always said. People have to remember, WWE is on what's considered basic cable, whereas TNA was on back when it was on Spike TV. Spike TV was more of your prime cable.
Yeah.
In some areas, so you didn't have as wide of an outreach as you would now. Granted, I think the highest they got was 500,000 views.
500,000 viewers.
About somewhere around there,
Mm-hmm.
which for a prime cable network, that's not bad, considering that's a much smaller market. Had TNA been able to secure a TV deal on a much broader area where you could get more viewership, you might have had a little bit more of a viability. A good interview. I always go back to Paul Heyman. He's always my go-to guy. Always. But there's an interview he did with Stone Cold Steve Austin, and he talked about what happened with ECW. And this is the one thing that I've learned just from that interview. With almost any promotion, it all comes down to financing, your distribution, and marketing.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't have one of those three, you can't succeed. And that, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
So that's why you have a problem. That's why, even though there's a lot of people that make the argument that New Japan is a superior product to WWE, or people that watch ROH thinks that it's a superior. And I'm not saying whether they're right or wrong. I'm saying that's their preference. The reason why these don't have a much more mass, even though it's growing, they don't have the marketing and they don't necessarily have the distribution that they need to break into the market like they would need to. That's the one thing WWE has over these other wrestling promotions that's going to be very hard to tackle. Is WWE is consistently breaking in to new markets, and they're constantly marketing themselves. They started out as territorial, then moved on to national, and then they went worldwide, and now they're really trying to expand into the worldwide market.
Yep.
Basement said in the chat, he thinks that a deal with like Amazon Prime or something would be great for AEW, and then they could have 4 pay-per-views a year on Fight TV app. And then he also said that they would have the best luck on establishing streaming service, be honest, because they could go with the teen rating for their programming and be able to get away with a lot of stuff that they do.
Here's another thing with AEW that hasn't posed, the question hasn't been, well, it's not really even a question. It's these pay-per-views. Some of these pay-per-views you have to pay $50 to watch them. A lot of people are gonna be like, I ain't gonna pay $50 to watch AEW.
Yeah. they're gonna have to figure that out because for All In, you had the Fight TV app, but then they were also streaming it live on ROH, and it was on a discount with ROH, and then I believe New Japan streamed it right after it was over.
Yep.
The thing that they would have to do, they would have to set up their own network. They would they would essentially have to set up their own streaming service for their pay-per-views, which is not a bad way to go.
Actually, I agree with Basement. The best thing to do would be go through Fight TV, but then make it to where it's not
$50.
It's not $50. You know what I mean? Like
I would pay $9.99 or $19.99 to watch a pay-per-view for them just to see what it's like. And I would not mind paying, if they're only going to do 4 pay-per-views a year, I don't mind paying the $19-20 to watch that.
Well, and see, that's the other thing that nobody's really taking into consideration is that the WWE network has effectively killed pay-per-view.
Yep.
On traditional TV.
Yep.
Because now you can get it for $10 a month.
Yep.
That's realistically a decent meal out. Not even that. It's cheaper than going to like a Chili's.
Yeah.
Or one of your kind of mid-level restaurants that you go for a family dinner. If you have that, they would have to have something comparable to what WWE already offers.
Yes.
And that's something that they would have to do.
Yep.
Now,
I agree with you there because like they're gonna have to figure something out by Double or Nothing actually, because they're not tied together with NJPW or ROH anymore, so you're not gonna be able to stream through their sites. So I'm thinking that they might do like a Fight TV for like the first couple of pay-per-views where you might have to pay $50 for it. But then after that, because if you think about it, if they start their own service right now, they don't have anything to put on it.
Well,
no, they don't.
So they have to have the build up,
Here's the thing with that first pay-per-view, and I'm fine with it because they're going to give some of the proceeds to
That's the second
victims.
Pay-per-view.
The second one?
Yes.
Then why do it? I would do it for the first one then.
Well, the second one, they're doing it because the first one is in Vegas, but the second one is in Jacksonville, Florida, and they're donating some of those proceeds to the gun violence in Florida.
No, I got that. I thought it was going to be. I thought that was the first one. Okay.
No, it's the second one. It's just because it's in Jacksonville.
I wouldn't.
No.
I wouldn't charge $50 for the first one. I'd want people to $5.99. Fucking check it out, and if people like it, then put it $50 at $50. I would.
Right.
And then let everybody know.
And
then let everybody know, hey, the proceeds or over half the proceeds that are being brought in as revenue are going to this charity.
Which would be awesome because which would be a good thing because it would show that they are. Because that's the other thing. WWE, if there's one thing that we can give WWE a lot of credit for, even though some of their choices and who they choose to be charitable with are questionable, they do a lot with charity.
They do.
And whether like Susan G. Komen to me is one of the worst organizations you can go with, but to the less and I hate to use this term, but there's no other way I can really explain the less informed viewer that knows about these charities is going to automatically assume that that's look at this, they're being overly charitable and all that. So the fact that AEW is doing this is good for their public relations.
Yes.
Because it does show that they're willing to care. They care very much about the community, and I think if they go with that, if they go with that strong from the get-go, it's going to take them very far. That's where you're really going to be hitting WWE if you're going to make any kind of dent. That's where you're really going to hit at them. If you can show that you are just as charitable or more charitable than the current top, quote unquote, top dog of the industry, that's going to take you far beyond any sort of market. That in itself is the best marketing that you could possibly do.
Well, and I really like the fact that I think that the timing that they did for this charity event is absolutely perfect because they're going to be in Jacksonville, Florida. The proceeds are going to gun violence in Florida. So that sets up a home base for them, so to speak. Okay, because we already know that home base for them, despite the fact that the Young Bucks are from California, home base for them is going to be in Florida, just simply because that's where Khan is and his dad and most of their other investors. So to set up that home base and then have a charity that large going towards something that is that big of a problem in Florida is a great way to develop those public relations close to home.
It's a good start.
Yes. Yeah, it's a great way to build a home base.
Well, I want to kind of go.
Calm down, Johnny.
All right.
Are you coughing?
No, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. Your Skype went out. It sounded like you were coughing.
No, that was him.
No, I had a little cough. That's
okay. Sorry.
I wanted to go out because when I come on, when I came in, I was listening to y'all all talk about Brock Lesnar and AJ, and I got into a lot of trouble last year because of my stance on this whole issue.
Okay.
This was my thing. I get why there was a lot of hate with Brock Lesnar. I get it. I understand it. And this is what got me in a lot of trouble with some other podcasters. I made the statement that realistically there was no difference as far as the building of the champion. As far as how dominant the champion was, there was no difference between Brock Lesnar and AJ Styles. The realistic only difference is that AJ wrestled more.
Yep. And it's the same. That's what we were talking about, Pete Dunne. That's what we were talking about, because he essentially is the same thing as AJ Styles was. Yeah, go ahead.
And so I get that, but I think the hate towards Brock Lesnar not showing up all the time is a little bit unwarranted. Frankly, the current WWE fans have been frankly spoiled.
Yep. On
seeing the champion every week. When sometimes back in the day when we were watching, sometimes it would be like Brock Lesnar. We wouldn't see the champion all the time. Now it wasn't to the extent of Brock Lesnar, but we still sometimes didn't see the champion all the time.
When I was growing up, do you know how often I seen Hulk Hogan on TV? Maybe 2 or 3 times a year.
My main issue is just that, first of all, he doesn't wrestle every pay-per-view. Second of all, because like the champions, when I started watching wrestling anyway, the champions were on every pay-per-view. Maybe not every TV show, but they were on every pay-per-view defending that title. Second of all, when he does come on TV, he never has a match. Like, it doesn't even have to be a title match.
Nope.
Put him in a fucking match. Like, he's just he comes out and he taunts Braun Strowman and then leaves.
That's the point that me and JP are making.
That's not Brock's fault. That is,
I agree.
Yes.
I agree. I'm not blaming Brock. I'm just saying.
But the thing is, where I'm going with it is, people are shitting on Brock for that. How can you shit on Brock? It's not his fault. They signed him to that. Fuck it. I do the same thing.
I never saw the appeal with Brock Lesnar to begin with, because he's kind of robotic in the ring to me. Now, anyway, he used to be good.
He was actually really good.
Well, this is the thing. This is essentially what the appeal is for Brock Lesnar, and it goes. WWE has done this for years. Is they put a lot of stock in the legitimate fighter.
Right.
Brock Lesnar, for all intents and purposes, is a legitimate fighter.
Yes.
He's a legitimate athlete.
Yes.
Not to say that wrestlers are not legitimate athletes. They are. But we have to take into consideration that WWE is a scripted form of entertainment. So these moves, there's accidents that happen. Lord knows we've seen a lot of the most heated discussions last year was over botches.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
But by and large, these actions are rehearsed. What sets Brock Lesnar apart and what gives him that mainstream appeal, especially to the casual audience, is the fact that he is a legitimate fighter. And that's what sets him apart. That's what the appeal is that it's the same way with Ronda Rousey. That's why there's so much of a spotlight on her, is because she's a legitimate fighter.
Wendy.
Poor Wendy.
Sound asleep, no less.
She's like half asleep, half awake.
Oh, yeah, that's usually when they do their most crying.
So the problem, this is what the problem realistically has become, is they've had this spotlight on Brock Lesnar and Ronda Rousey for a while now. Arguably, whether we don't consider him to be, but essentially, Brock Lesnar took the spot of Roman Reigns. He's essentially the face of the company right now.
Yep.
Because he's what draws. Pause.
Yeah.
So the problem that you're having now, and reason why you're seeing a lot of lower viewership and a lot of problems with the product in general, is everybody else doesn't look legitimate. There's no legitimacy to anybody else.
Yep.
Don't not taken away from the fact that people like AJ Styles and Finn Balor and Seth Rollins, Dean Ambrose are phenomenal performers in the ring. But they're not legitimate fighters. They're not people that have been like in the octagon or people that have boxed or been in mixed martial arts, which is so disappointing for Bobby Lashley, because he is another legitimate fighter.
Yeah. I'm kind of interested just to hear what Bobbitt and Truck and Ronnie have to think about this. They're quiet.
Well, for me, I mean, Brock has always been the name. His name, you affiliate it with WWE, you affiliate it with UFC. Now you got Ronda Rousey. You affiliate the name, you affiliate UFC, you now affiliate her with WWE. And the ones that have been with WWE, which was a source of contention last year too, they brought Shawn Michaels back. It was the name. It was the person. It was the individual. They brought Undertaker back. It was the name. It was the individual. It was what the fans wanted to see, but it wasn't the Undertaker or the Shawn Michaels that we all knew and loved from when we were growing up. You didn't get that big match. And especially with Brock, he is not what he was years ago. None of these wrestlers are.
Well, no,
and you've got the up and coming ones now who need to start making a name for themselves for that purpose, to be that draw, to be that name that we can affiliate it with. Yes, we want to go see them. Yes, we want to see that pay-per-view with them. But like Johnny said, and JP said, technically, no, it is not Brock's fault. It's the contract he negotiated with Vince McMahon, who agreed to it.
Well, what was very telling for me is Raw. We talked about it on Wrestling Memories this week. Raw 25, when Stone Cold Steve Austin came out. The people don't realize that Stone Cold got a bigger pop than anybody on the current roster. Anybody. And that's a problem. That's what your main issue is that you don't have anybody on the roster the fans are getting behind
Yeah,
100%.
We were touching on that earlier.
Yep.
The one superstar that is kind of getting that way, but not to the level of Stone Cold or somebody like Shawn Michaels or The Undertaker, is Elias.
Now, I'm gonna ask that because I specifically asked Brian this question on Monday. I said, who got the bigger pop on Monday? Was it Hulk Hogan? Was it Hulk Hogan, Seth Rollins? He said that Elias did not get as big a pop as any of those guys.
Yeah, and he also said that because like when we were watching it on TV, Hogan, it didn't sound like it was that big of a pop for Hogan, but he said that place was deafening.
Yes.
So I mean, they're obviously messing with the audio to make us at home feel differently. I don't know why they would turn down Hogan. But...
I can tell you exactly why. Because there's still, whether people want to admit it or not, and I think it's going to be an unpopular opinion, but I think he's paid his dues for his mess up, and I think that whether we like it or not, that stigma is always going to follow him. So if WWE was to show that the large majority has forgiven him, how does that look on WWE?
Yeah.
And that's why. But it goes to prove my point. Elias is not on that level of a Hulk Hogan or Stone Cold, but in my opinion, he's the only one that's really come close. I mean, Seth Rollins does have his moments, but not as consistent as Elias.
Okay. Why can I hear myself?
Because you're echoing. I don't know.
Why? Anyway,
Did Chuck unplug his headphones?
No.
That could be, but anyways, one thing that I think that they messed up, okay, was Elias was healed, okay. After that night in Seattle, when the boos were so loud that you could practically feel them in your bones at home. A couple of episodes after that, they turned him face. I think that they messed up there. Now, don't get me wrong. I love Elias as a face. I do. But I think that they should have kept him heel because he was getting so much fan reaction through that. And that was exciting, but now it's like, yeah, he's getting fan reaction, but it's not that big fan pop like
I agree. I do agree. Now, I do believe Elias can work great as both a heel and a face, but they turned him face at the wrong time.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
What I would have done is I would have kept him heel all the way up until the change episode, You're in Charge episode.
Mm-hmm.
And then what me and JP were talking about it. What I would have done is I would have had him build a feud with Dean Ambrose and turn him face that way.
Dean Ambrose was another one. That's another one where they failed because, like, when he first turned heel, oh God, there was heat on him.
Oh,
with
yeah.
the Roman thing and everything, and then they bring him out in like freaking face masks, and he's afraid of germs, and I'm like, what the fuck is happening?
I know.
The one promo that they let him do that was so great was when he was sitting on the car hood with the freaking fire burning in the barrel next to him. That was a great promo because it was him. There wasn't any bullshit propaganda behind it, but now they're right back to the scripted bullshit, and it's driving me crazy.
Well, even with Elias too, when he was out there with Kevin Owens, and him and Kevin Owens were bouncing off of each other, and the crowd was popping at the right time, and with just their little innuendos that they were making. Now, of course, Kevin Owens is on his way back. We don't know when, but even with Elias, to even pair him with somebody, but show that he can do with somebody, and he can do it as a singles competitor. Just to see, especially for him, with Dean Ambrose, they've already kind of pulled the trigger by making him Intercontinental Champion, which now leaves, of course, we mentioned Seth, where them getting the pops that they're getting. I mean, Seth, with being as an individual, he was getting them with the Shield. He was getting them tagged with Ambrose, and he gets as a singles wrestler. So with Seth, it's a little bit more expected because with how he's done pretty much with everybody and anybody, and he is still getting the accolades and stuff like that. But it's nothing compared to, like Johnny said, Stone Cold Steve Austin or The Rock when he comes out.
Bobbitt and Trek, I have a question because you guys are both quiet as hell.
They always are.
When it comes to, let's say, the whole Seth Rollins issue or situation, okay? Remember what back in like 2014-ish when they turned Seth? When he turned on the Shield. Do you think that if they would have done, instead of Seth, if they would have done that to Roman, do you think that Roman would be in the popularity situation that Seth is now? Or do you think that Roman would have still faltered?
I think it would have been better for Roman because, like Stone Cold says, to be a good face, you have to be a better heel to start off. And look how Stone Cold started off as a heel. They just grew and grew and grew. Look what happened with the Usos. They turned them back to heels, and now they're cool heels. They're not even heels anymore. They're faces pretty much again. So I think they should have done it with Roman.
What do you think, Bobbitt? Good talk.
Well, I think it would be better for Roman because I'm gonna steal a line from Johnny here. I'm gonna quote Paul Heyman here. Roman was a wrong place at a wrong time guy. If his would have been a little bit sooner, I think Roman would have gotten the pop that I think Roman would have been in a whole different position. Nobody would have hated him as much.
He was the right place. He was the right guy, wrong time.
Right guy, wrong time.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't have been sooner. It would realistically needed to be later.
Yes.
They pulled the trigger on him too soon.
Yep. See, I don't think so. I don't think so because I personally think if they would have had Roman turn on the Shield instead of Seth, then that would have been perfect.
Yeah.
No.
Do it later, like after Daniel Bryan had to leave again.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Gotcha.
Right.
When they pulled the trigger, it was right at the time that Daniel Bryan was coming back from his injury.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Right, and so this happens before the Shield breakup. So you were essentially correct. What they should have done is let Daniel Bryan have his one more ride, and then have Roman break up the Shield and turn him heel and let him go through that process as the big guy. But at the same time, it's kind of hard to really quantify if that would have happened, considering the fact of what we know now.
No, didn't they turned Roman. Now you got me thinking. They turned Seth before that because that was WrestleMania 31.
Yeah, that was back in, was it 2013 or 2014?
Yeah.
Because I remember Austin and I went to a Raw. That was actually our first live event in 2014, and Seth had just turned the week prior to that. And they didn't turn him at WrestleMania. I thought they turned him at it was like TLC or something like that.
Was it TLC?
I thought it was
Payback.
The night after TLC.
It was Payback. Heather
There
and
you
I
go.
just watched it.
Night
Yeah.
after,
It was the night after Payback.
Yeah, because the Raw that we went to was the next week after that, and I remember Seth came out with the Authority, and like Dean and Roman had came out and was attacking them, and it was chaotic, but I think that it would have benefited not only Roman but the fans if they would have turned Roman instead of Seth.
Yeah, and that was in December, and then they had Roman Reigns win the damn Royal Rumble in January. He beat Daniel Bryan.
Yep.
So that's where the right guy, wrong time thing came in.
Right.
Right.
Okay. Gotcha.
Like, and that's the thing. Nobody realistically hated Roman. It
Nope.
was just, like I said, they just pulled the trigger on him too soon.
Yeah.
I mean, but there's no taking away from the fact that at the time, people were cheering for Roman.
Yes, they were. It's when he beat Daniel Bryan at the Royal Rumble.
Things changed.
It flipped on a switch, and that's when the decline happened.
That's because Daniel Bryan is Golden Boy. I mean, they should have known. Like, now he's not the Golden Boy.
Nope.
Now I guarantee you, if Roman came back and beat him today, everybody would be like, "Ah, yeah, yay, Roman."
Yeah, I know they would.
But back then, I mean, the Yes movement, it was getting old, yes, but I was kind of sad to see it go in the same sense because to me, that was Daniel Bryan.
Yep.
Because that made Daniel Bryan. Whole reason why the Yes movement started was because Daniel Bryan was being underutilized and mistreated because he wasn't a big wrestler, he wasn't a big guy, all this stuff, and he wasn't being given any chances, any opportunities. So that's why the movement started.
Right.
So when they took that away from him, it's kind of like, who the hell is he now?
Yep.
Right. Well,
people. Go ahead, Jay.
Essentially, what I find funny about the whole thing is that essentially JBL was right.
Yep.
Oh,
JBL
God.
was right. Once you took the underdog away from Daniel Bryan,
he's nothing.
That's all that Daniel Bryan had.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And they're trying to catch lightning in a bottle twice again. And that's why Daniel Bryan's whatever failed. And then they essentially failed by not having The Miz win Money in the Bank. That's what I meant by last night, by them extending the feud between him and Daniel Bryan. The Miz.
Yeah.
It would have worked. But they had to put the goddamn thing on fucking Braun Strowman because they thought that was the way to go.
What you want to bet that we see Daniel Bryan and The Miz at WrestleMania? What you want to bet?
I don't think. I think it's
Shane.
I was just gonna say that, Ronnie. I think that it's gonna end up Shane. Miz is gonna do something stupid to piss off Shane. Shane is gonna turn on Miz, and it's gonna end up being Shane versus The Miz at WrestleMania.
Yeah, because they're starting to tell that tale with the tag team.
Mm-hmm.
But the Bar now going against those two.
But I'm sorry, that's gonna be one match that I'm gonna look forward to because JP, I know that you don't like Shane, but Shane, I love Shane, and he can still do it in the ring. He looks good inside and outside of the ring. Enough with my crush on Shane. The Miz is great all the way around. Great promos between both of them. I'm looking forward to it.
Right, and he also started telling that story. My dad's not proud of me like your dad is. And I'm going to do something that's going to make my dad proud, and it's going to center around that best in the world thing.
It's going to be, the storyline's going to center around the fucking McMahons, and that's why I don't want fucking Shane in a fucking match, because the McMahons have to, we already know, they own the goddamn company. Why do they have to be in a fucking match?
But I think that this could work in the benefit, or it could work in the benefit for the company because, okay, if you guys have ever watched The Miz and Mrs., like it's a true story. Like the Miz's dad, he does not say he's proud of him. He never has. He even talks about it in one of the episodes.
Okay.
So that's a true story. So if you think about it, if they turn those two on each other, and let's say that Shane has Mr. McMahon in his corner.
Right.
And The Miz has his dad in his corner. They could make it to where The Miz beats Shane, and that could be like the ultimate underdog story where like the dad is finally proud of him and all that stuff. So they could turn it to where it would definitely work on the positive side and not just towards the McMahons.
I don't see them. For some reason, I don't trust. We'll see. not gonna say
Because I mean, it's not like Shane hasn't lost at WrestleMania.
Oh yeah, I know
He
that.
lost to the Undertaker though.
Well, he lost to whoever. He lost to AJ Styles.
Yeah, I was gonna say he lost to
But, I
AJ
mean-
Styles.
Again, two names that are bigger than the Miz.
Yeah.
I'd argue that point.
I'm not gonna get into that. I mean, I'm with Heather, but that's semantics. We've talked about it. Again, AJ. I think AJ Styles is a bigger superstar than Miz. I'm sorry.
Oh my God, Basement. He says Shane versus Vince in a nursing home brawl.
Oh God.
By the way, there are some fans who actually believe online that WWE planned out the whole Yes Movement thing. I'm like, that's bullshit.
Kind of.
It's a scripted show track.
Yeah,
They kind of did.
Yeah.
No, I know, but they said they expected the uprising after. They said, "Oh, you're getting Randy Orton versus Batista." I'm like, that doesn't. Consider I've been watching it since WrestleMania, since '85. It's like, it doesn't seem like it was such a scripted moment to me. It just seems too good to be true.
No, it was, but they did it organically.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was scripted, but it was organic. That was probably their plan all along. Because they kept on fucking giving you little hints that this is what we're going to do. Because they threw Daniel Bryan in the fucking match with the fucking Wyatt family.
Mhm.
And that's when it took off. That's when the Yes Movement took off. They said, we got something here, and we're pushing Daniel Bryan. He's going to end up winning the title at WrestleMania. I guarantee it.
Right, and if you remember too, when he turned on Bray Wyatt, the pop that he got, Daniel Bryan,
but the way that they did it was organic. That's why people believe to this day that wasn't planned. It was. It was there. It was in the back of their mind.
It's funny because I've said it before. I'll say it again. When that pop happened that night, when he turned on Bray Wyatt in the steel cage, he swears up and down that he had a concussion that night and doesn't remember shit.
Okay.
It's possible. I mean, look how many concussions he had to begin with.
Well, it's also why a lot of people that will say that was the last great, really good storyline told by WWE
because it was organic.
Yep.
It was organic, but it was planned.
I see what you guys mean, but for some reason, like, people are like they planned for Punk to walk out and all this. They had this big conspiracy that they planned for Punk to walk out, that he knew he was going to walk out.
They wanted to get rid of Punk.
Yeah.
They knew that was going on for like a year.
Yeah,
they knew he was wanting to leave for like a year.
Yeah.
Paul Heyman even said it.
Yeah.
You know what? Basement just brought up a really, really good point in the chat. He said, I don't give two shits about Daniel Bryan, which is something no one should be saying after this guy returned from a career-ending injury less than a year ago.
I'm with Basement.
And Z-Moon comes in and says Daniel Bryan can eat a fat one.
I'm going to say this. I think Daniel Bryan right now is boring. He is very, very boring.
Yeah, super boring. Oh, but by the way, to retort or go to go back to what we were just saying before about Seth Rollins when he left the Shield. He turned on the Shield on June 2nd of 2014. So it would have been like a couple of weeks after that, or it would have been the next week after that I went to that Raw.
Yep, and then that's when they started the push for Roman Reigns.
Yes.
And Rollins won Money in the Bank that year too.
Yes, and then he cashed in at WrestleMania. We just talked about that.
Yep.
Because Roman Reigns won Royal Rumble. So yeah, but back on the AEW thing. But
sorry.
No, it's all right. It's all right. Essentially, this conversation is kind of what But AEW, I mean, look. Again, I am of the proponent. This hasn't even had one damn match yet, and everybody thinks it's greater than WWE. Slow down, take a deep breath, Let them have their pay-per-view and go from there. Now, the production, remember, All In, they were booking the show. If they're going to have or Billy Gunn and whoever do the booking or the producing or whatever they're doing, that will benefit them better. They'll be able to say, okay, we got to cut the match off at this time to try not to go over. That's where they fail. Because like I said, the few problems that I had with it, the one major problem, and it's not really major, they got the match in, but they had to cut it short, was the main event. And that's where, because they could have done so much more.
Oh, yeah. And
they could have done that speech that they showed on YouTube.
Well, basically, the Young Bucks had said that all of the move sets and everything that they had planned to do were done, except they had to rush them. So it was like nobody could keep up with all the high flying shit that was happening going on in the ring because it was going so fast.
Right.
So the match did turn out the way that they meant it to. It was just a lot faster.
Right.
And like you just said, they wanted to do the speech at the end of the show, but there just wasn't enough time.
Right. And it probably would have got me more vested in this AEW thing.
Bobbitt, don't make me fucking hurt you. I will hurt you. But I think the reason why everybody is so excited is because of the success from All In. All In, aside from that last match, it was a great show. I really enjoyed it. So I think that with Billy Gunn backstage producing the show and being able to sit behind the screens instead of Cody and the Young Bucks doing it, he can sit behind the screens and say, all right, well, there's too much, this match is going too long, cut it off, blah, blah, blah. It's going to be timed a lot better. You're going to have superstars that you both saw at All In and some of them that you didn't see in All In.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it has the potential to be really good. Not going to be WWE quality for a long time.
Nope. You're probably gonna see it at a Ring of Honor level, maybe even a little step below that. Because you look at New Japan, their production level is pretty high too.
Yeah.
It's not going to be at the level of a New Japan. And don't get too excited about Kenny Omega again. Don't get too excited. We'll see what happens. People are like jumping the gun on this shit.
There's actually, first of all, am I echoing? Because Basement says I'm echoing. Okay.
I can't tell because I don't.
Okay, but anyways, there was news that came out yesterday about Kenny Omega. Now, granted, this is still partially rumors, but it was from Dave Meltzer, who is very, very close friends with the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega.
No wonder why he gave that motherfucker a 7-star match.
He's very close.
I can't stand Dave Meltzer. I take nothing that he says anywhere.
But he is very close with them, so he has an inner tie to the circle. But according to him, Kenny Omega has already turned down a WWE deal.
He's turned it down 3 times.
Yes. No, I mean, just this year, recently.
Yeah.
Turned it down, and he is planning on signing with AEW. Also, he said that the Young Bucks, and the Young Bucks verified this, the Young Bucks turned down a deal that would have had them.
I heard.
They would have been making more than the top superstar combined. And they would have had an out in 6 months if they wanted it.
Yeah.
Hangman Page was offered a freaking deal that to lead NXT, he would have been getting paid main roster level pay, but they turned it down, and that's why I respect these guys. Because
there's nothing wrong with taking the money, and for them to say, well, I'd rather have the money, well, that doesn't mean, look, I'll tell you this, Shinsuke Nakamura is in WWE for the money, he said it, but that doesn't mean that Shinsuke Nakamura doesn't give you 120%.
I'm not saying that, but
no, I know you're not. I just want people to understand that,
heading off anything that's going to come our way that way.
Yeah.
Right. But all I'm saying is that I respect the hell out of these guys because they risked everything in order to take a chance on their dream.
And there's nothing wrong with taking a dream. There's nothing wrong with taking a chance. I just want them to make sure that they have all their ducks in a row. You can say that they do, but do they? That's the question that we have.
Yeah.
Because it could fall flat on its face, like so many others have, like TNA, and I talked about that last night.
There is a lot of there. The thing is, whether you're excited about AEW, whether you believe that they're never going to be as big as WWE, at this point, it's all irrelevant.
Exactly.
It's all irrelevant. We don't know what's going to happen.
No.
Is it exciting? Yes, it's exciting. It's always exciting when a new promotion, we hear about a new promotion, especially with some of the names.
Mm-hmm.
Names that you're hearing. I mean, you can't take anything away. Cody Rhodes is a big name. Young Bucks are a big name. Hell, I've never even seen a Young Bucks match, and I've heard of them. That's how big
I take issue with that, Johnny.
They're about like Shawn Michaels times 2 is about it. Not as good, but you know what I mean.
I think it's more so is because everyone is really sour on WWE right now, and this is new and fresh with ideas.
But what ideas? They haven't given us.
That's why I said ideas, but it's like WWE came to us at the end of December. Oh, we're going to do this, and we're going to do this, and we're going to do this. And everybody was getting excited. And then the first live show happens, and it fell flat on its face. It did not deliver. Unfortunately, what delivered that night was the memorial from Hulk Hogan to Mean Gene. And if that wouldn't have happened, that show would have been a 0 out of 10, basically.
Well, like I said, like I've always said, this week's rating for Raw was 2.3 million. Mm-hmm. Okay. They used to be at 5-6 million.
Okay. Okay.
Those fans have gone somewhere. And okay. I think that's what you're saying. Realistically, there's never been a better time to be a wrestling fan. There's never been a better time to be a wrestling fan. You have so many avenues to go watch something.
Yeah, D Moon, we kind of touched on that a little earlier. By the way, is the echo better, Basement? I took my headphones off. But we kind of touched on that earlier.
What?
NJPW is, they had to choose between teaming with ROH or AEW, and they chose ROH.
Which is a safer bet. I hate to say it.
Yeah, so basically right now, AEW, aside from Chris Jericho, his contract states that he can go and have a few matches in NJPW, but aside from that, as far as I know, there won't be any ties with them as of now.
Yeah. And I think the reason why NJPW is sticking with ROH is because of that G1 Supercard. That's why.
Not only that, but with ROH, they get access to a whole bunch of other wrestling promotions as well, because they work with Progress, they work with Rev Pro, all of them.
No, Progress works with WWE. Talked about
Progress also works with NJPW though, because that's where Will Ospreay came from right away, and Zack Sabre Jr.
Yeah, but they don't work with them anymore.
Well, and I want to speak to something deep.
Zack Sabre Jr. works with Rep Pro now.
I wanted to speak to something that D Moon said. He was saying wrestling was big in the 90s because it was the trend. It was cool to watch. People moved on. That's true somewhat. However, there's also been a paradigm that has not happened, in that the older fans like myself, JP, Gina, Ronnie, I mean, have not moved on from wrestling. Also, it would not be one of the biggest talked about topics on YouTube.
Yeah.
That's the only thing that I can say to that.
I mean, you look at WWE, they have 38 million subscribers on YouTube. Now, granted, not all of them subscribers are there, but think about that for a minute.
Well, the other thing is too, the way we watch wrestling now is different than when we watched it in the day. We had to sit there, or we had to pop
Give
in
me a
the
second, guys.
VHS tape.
Yep.
Now you can go to the WWE YouTube, or you can go to these other sites and just the snippets.
You can also go, you can also watch the network. It's a month behind, but you can watch episodes that happened a month ago.
Oh, baby girl.
So that's where people are watching. That's not. I get what a lot of people are saying about the fan base being gone, but I guarantee they don't do TV ratings on every medium. If you think about it, I don't know how many people do. I don't know how they do Hulu ratings, and how many people watch what show. I don't know if they're released ever. So I don't know. I can't answer that question. I don't know where they've gone. I don't think they've gone to other promotions. I think they just, those fans that just don't like what the product is, they just shunned it. They think all products are like that. And a lot of the fans nowadays, the casual fans, and I hate to say this, the casual fans outweigh the real fans now. That's where they're getting most of their views. And that sucks.
Honestly, I think like the only thing that I really see being great about AEW is that they may bring some of those wrestling fans back. You know, because not just AEW, okay? Let's say AEW starts doing really good, okay? New Japan keeps on the track that they're doing really well. ROH, Progress, Rev Pro, all of these different promotions are doing great. WWE starts turning his shit around. That is going to give a reason for people to come back to wrestling. That's why competition is the greatest factor here. Somebody needs, like if I was AEW, I would be doing everything possible to get New Japan and ROH to work with me, because the more wrestling promotions you have together, the bigger powerhouse you have. Competition is what's going to drive.
Yep, totally agree. I said that last night. Look at what happened the last time WWE had competition. And no, I don't want WWE to swallow up that competition. I don't want WWE to buy AEW. I want AEW to be able to stand on their own and give us something.
So in other words, what you want is WCW in its prime during when the Attitude Era first started.
I just want them to be able to stand on their own. Yes,
Raw is war. Like the Raw is war era.
I want I don't want it right away, because it's not going to happen right away. But once it gets to that point, when it gets to that point, I want them to be able to compete. I want WWE to say, okay, we need to start giving our fans a better product. And hopefully by then, they see that AEW is growing and they say, okay, we've got to get better. If we're not, we're going to lose some of our superstars. They're going to want, even NXT is going to hurt from this. I see NXT hurting more than any of the fucking promotions or the shows. Because where do they get most of their stars from NXT? Other promotions. So NXT is going to hurt even more than SmackDown or Raw. I guarantee it. That's why you're going to see either NXT is going to say, you know what? Triple H is going to be like, you know what? We're going to move to 2 hours, and we're going to give these people a show. And they're going to start going to bigger venues. Because right now NXT is the better product. But how much better is it? It's kind of gotten stale. It really has. NXT has got to move on from Tommaso Ciampa. Please, he's getting boring.
Mm-hmm.
But I think WWE needs to step up now and not wait to see what AEW does.
I agree, but they won't. And the problem is with that is they won't do it.
They don't feel they have to.
They don't feel they have to. Because this is the thing. They make more money off of their licensing and marketing than actually putting on a Raw, a Raw and a SmackDown. That's where they get most. That's where a lot of their money is vested in. Most of it's vested in the wrestling, but their merchandising sales. WWE isn't just a wrestling company anymore. It's like a goddamn, what do you call it, a department store. Think about it.
Right, but you would think they would want a game plan to take to their investors to say, look, this is what we're going to do because now we know we have this out here in the wings.
I wouldn't say this. I would say this is what we're going to do. I would say that, but I would say we have to do this or else we are fucked, people.
And that's also part of the problem. It's a lot of the investors that are making the decisions for them, not Vince McMahon.
As far as the company goes, he still makes the decisions when it comes to the wrestling. So. Does anybody else have anything? Go ahead.
Put a little bit better of an analogy on it. WWE has effectively become Disney.
Yes.
Well, that's what Steph wanted.
Yeah.
That's essentially what
why
WWE
did they fucking
is.
build an amusement park then?
Well, there's plenty of land down here for them to do it.
Well,
all I could say about two things. If people were asking me the other day when the whole AEW rally happened, they're like, do you think Omega will sign with them? Will it hurt you if them? Like, you can't make someone sign with someone they don't want to sign with. If he signs with AEW, that's great. If he signs with WWE, that's great. He's of his own mind and he can make up his own decisions. And I'm not going to disappoint either way.
I do agree with Basement. Basement said something earlier. I do agree with Basement. I kind of want him to go to WWE. He's freaking wrestled everybody that there is to wrestle in AEW besides the people that, they're bringing in. I mean, he may not have wrestled all of them, but he's wrestled the Young Bucks. He's wrestled Cody. He's wrestled this guy. I don't remember he's wrestled. I think he's wrestled Hangman Page. I'm sure he has.
Wrestled Girl, I think.
Yeah, I mean, he's wrestled everybody there is to wrestle that is in AEW except for a few of them. I would love to see him go up against a Seth Rollins or a...
I don't want to see that. I legitimately do not want to see Kenny Omega versus Seth Rollins.
Why not?
Oh, versus AJ.
Because I'm sorry, I may be a little biased here, but I do not think that Seth Rollins is on Kenny Omega level.
I think he is.
I
think he is.
I know
he's on. I know AJ. I'd love to see him fight AJ.
AJ versus Omega, I would love to see.
I'd love to see Drew McIntyre versus
I want to see Drew McIntyre.
Or Shinsuke Nakamura versus Omega.
Yeah, we never got that. If you watched that yet, Shinsuke Nakamura left the company before he got to wrestle Kenny Omega. I'd love to see that, but I think Shinsuke is going to end up going back to New Japan.
Secondly, it's on the topic of them getting a TV deal. I know Jericho said that there are 3 networks interested, maybe 4, but until it happens, I'm going to wait and see what happens because all I could say is on the process of a weekly TV deal, doing weekly TV, it's easier to do a one-off or to do 4 pay-per-views a year than to do a weekly TV thing. Look what happened with TNA when they started doing weekly TV. It didn't help.
Yeah.
But we'll see.
So I hope they go ahead.
No, I just said we'll see.
So I hope they do succeed, but I'm going to be very careful about when they do start up because, like I said, look what happened. I was excited for TNA and look what happened. I mean, for a while there, they were not watchable at all.
Well, they still aren't, in my opinion.
Yeah. They seem to get better, but then they seem to, it's like one step forward,
15
100
steps
steps
back.
back.
Stop it. Get up here.
So, but
No.
Gina, do you got anything else you want to add?
No, I'm good.
You sure?
Yeah.
You don't want to say I'm a dumbass for saying Kenny Omega versus Seth Rollins?
You're not a dumbass, okay? Seth Rollins is a fantastic wrestler. I think I'm holding Kenny Omega up on a little bit more of a pedestal.
I like Kenny Omega, but I think he would give a good match to Seth Rollins. I think him and Seth Rollins would have a phenomenal match. They kind of have the same style.
Yes. I think what's spoiling that match for me is the fact that it is WWE, so you know it's going to be watered down.
Well, goddamn. I mean, they're going to fucking water down. Shinsuke Nakamura doesn't even do half of what he did.
That's what I'm saying. Like, that is what...
Well, that's what their careers.
That's my grudge against WWE right now.
Well, that's what's got to change about WWE. They got to let their fucking wrestlers do what they need to do. If that's the change we fucking need with WWE. Is let these guys do their fucking thing, not this choreographed ballet bullshit.
Yeah, and I hold Kenny Omega to a higher pedestal. You can blame Basement because he's the one that got me into New Japan in the beginning, and he got me onto Omega. So, Basement, it's your fault.
Yeah, Omega. I mean, I like Omega, but I like the Japanese stars better. To be honest with you, I like their style of
Likewise, so do I.
I think they're way better. I don't think Kenny Omega's on their level, to be honest.
I prefer the Elite in general. It's not that I don't like the Elite, because I do, because they have there's something about them that draws you to them.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as wrestling wise, I would have to say I'm more either the Japanese wrestlers or even like Zack Sabre Jr. Switchblade is fucking fantastic.
Jay White.
Jay White, Switchblade Jay White.
I like him too.
Trying to think of a couple of other ones. Like there's so many good wrestlers in New Japan, which is one of the reasons why the Elite, they rub me the wrong way a little bit now because of like they thought that they were so great, and that like New Japan, they were holding up New Japan.
Yeah, no, they weren't.
There's so many different amazing talents in New Japan that all together hold up New Japan.
Yes. Kazuchika Okada.
Oh my God, I love him.
Is the fucking man. Enough said.
Fucking, I almost called you Basement. JP.
Yes.
Talk about wrestling until AEW has its first show, so talk forever. Rawr, 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 keep it going, forget sleep. Just keep talking.
Who is that?
That's Bobbitt.
That's Drew?
No, Roots and Drew.
Oh, I thought you said Drew. I didn't hear you, asshole.
Pay attention, you dick.
I was paying attention.
God.
But no,
we were discussing last night, JP, about how everybody says Kenny Omega is the best wrestler in the world, but we actually kind of think it's Okada.
I think Okada's 10 times better than fucking Kenny Omega, people.
I think Dean Moon might have been in that conversation too.
I like Kenny Omega, but he's not as good as Kazuchika Okada. That who's best in the world thing, that PWI thing, is kayfabe.
Yeah.
It's kayfabe. I mean, they legit had Carmella as a better wrestler than Kairi Sane. Are you fucking kidding me? Come on, people. It's a kayfabe thing. It's kayfabe. Kazuchika Okada, some of the shit Kazuchika Okada does, as a heavyweight, he's better than some lightweights.
Yeah.
Sorry, and you can argue with me about that. I think Japanese wrestling is not far more advanced than American wrestling, but they focus more on the wrestling than they do talking.
You know, I think one person that doesn't get nearly as much as they recognition as they should is Hangman Page, because that guy, I don't know another guy, what is he, 253 pounds, that can do a moonsault off the fucking turnbuckle, or not a moonsault. Forget what he does, but it's like a backflip off the freaking not the off of the ring apron. Yes, thank you. Off the ring apron, not even the ring post, the ring apron, and he hits it. And he's like what, 6'3", 6'4"?
Yeah, he's 6'3", 6'4", 240 pounds, I think. Something like
Yeah,
that.
but I mean, what other athlete do you know that can move like that?
What's his name?
No derailed, let Drew sweat a little and keep this going.
Donovan
I agree,
Dijak.
I think it's Okada to JP.
Yep. It's Donovan Dijak can do that, and he's almost 300 pounds. There's not very many. We'll put it to you like that.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Like, I know a lot of people hate Hangman Page because they say that he looks like this like cowboy or whatever basement.
It's his gimmick.
Yeah, but the dude is incredibly. I'd say, I'm sorry, but I agree with Cody Rhodes. Hangman Page is the future of wrestling.
He's one of them. He's one of them.
He's still in his 20s, right?
Yes, he's only, I think he's like 25, 26.
So yeah, he's got plenty of years left.
Mm-hmm.
Good God, he's just a baby.
I know, right? And like, I'm like, oh, he's so hot, and then I find out he's that little, and I'm like, no.
Yeah.
Okay, I mean, I don't have anything else to say. Does anybody else have anything to say?
These chicken wings are fucking amazing.
Fuck chicken wings. But that being said, Bobbitt, you can have the show back now.
Oh, Bobbitt's still here?
I've only got to say 3 things in 3
Then
hours.
say something.
It's your fucking show, dude.
Hey, yeah, first of all, I sent it back to you like 5 times, and you didn't say anything.
Well, that's because somebody else answered for me.
Go ahead, Bobbitt.
With that being said, we're going to have an after 6 session with Basement, so I'm going to add him now. And thanks for joining us tonight, guys. As always, thanks to Ronnie, Trexter, Gina, Johnny, and the Colebone crew, well, Heather and GP for joining us tonight. Have a good night, and I will say more next week. I promise. I hope. Yeah. Background Bobbitt at it again.